Hey everyone, and welcome to Bytes. This is the place for quick, clear explanations on, well, just about everything. Science, tech, history, fun what-ifs, you name it, we break down those big ideas into bite-sized pieces. Today, we're diving into something a lot of us do, sometimes on purpose, sometimes not so much. We're talking about fasting.
So, let's start with a big question. What if skipping a meal could actually be a way to reset your body? And I'm not talking about the latest diet craze. What if just changing when you eat, not even what you eat, could flip a switch on a powerful program that's literally hardwired into our cells? We're talking about a deep, fundamental survival mechanism. Okay, so before we jump in, a quick heads up. This explainer is all about the biology, the nuts and bolts of what's happening inside you. We're not handing out any medical or diet advice here. Instead, we're going to unpack the cool science behind what actually happens when your body goes into a fasted state. So let's get right to it, starting with the first big change, the fuel your body uses.
All right, section 1, the body's fuel switch. So first things first, we got to talk about how our bodies get energy in the first place. Because when you stop putting fuel in, from food, your body has to get pretty creative. And it all starts by flipping one really, really important switch.
You can kind of think of your body like a hybrid car. For all your normal day-to-day driving, it runs on its main fuel, the stuff that's super easy to access. For us, that fuel is glucose. Yep, sugar that we get from carbs. Our body packs this glucose away in the liver and muscles in a form called glycogen. It's like having a full tank of gas, always ready for a quick burst of energy.
But what happens when you don't refuel? After about 12 to 16 hours without food, those glycogen stores start to get seriously low. The gas tank is hitting empty. And your body can't just pull over and stop, right? It needs a new plan, a new source of energy, and fast. So it does something amazing. It flips what scientists call the metabolic switch.
And this switch, it changes the whole game. Your body shifts from burning sugar to burning fat. Your liver gets to work, converting that fat into these cool little molecules called ketones. So, if glucose is like your standard everyday gasoline, think of ketones as this super efficient, high-octane backup fuel. And this is the part that's absolutely crucial to remember. This switch from glucose to ketones is the key that unlocks everything else we're going to talk about.
Okay, section 2, a cellular deep clean. So, the body is now running on this awesome backup fuel. What happens next? Well, with the main engine running so efficiently, it frees up resources for some, let's say, much-needed internal maintenance. It's time to do a deep clean, and I mean deep, all the way down to the cellular level.
This process has a really cool name, autophagy. It literally means self-eating in Greek. Now, I know that sounds a little intense, but trust me, it's a good thing. It's basically your body's built-in quality control system. Imagine a tiny cleaning crew inside every one of your cells, going around identifying and bagging up all the junk, damaged proteins, worn-out parts, just cellular gunk that builds up over time. And listen, this isn't some wacky, fringe idea. This is big-time science. The research into autophagy was so important, it actually won the Nobel Prize back in 2016 for the scientist who figured out how it all works. So yeah, it's a pretty fundamental process for keeping our cells healthy and renewed.
So how does this cellular cleaning crew actually do its job? Well, it's a 4-step process. First, it has to identify the junk, right? It targets a broken part. Next, it needs to collect it. A special little membrane forms around the junk, kind of like wrapping it up in a tiny trash bag. Then, that little trash bag has to fuse with the cell's main recycling center, a part called the lysosome. And finally, the best part, recycle. Enzymes get in there and break all that junk down into raw materials that the cell can actually reuse to build new things. It's a perfect example of how fasting gives the body the time and space it needs to take out the trash.
All right, section 3, rewiring the liver. So all this stuff happening at the molecular level is super cool, but what does it actually look like in our organs? Well, a really fascinating study in mice gives us a pretty striking picture, focusing on one of the body's main metabolic powerhouses, the liver.
Okay, wow. Just look at this. The difference here is pretty stark. Up top, you've got the livers from mice that could just eat whenever they felt like it. And down below, you've got the livers from mice that fasted for 12 hours a day, every day, for a month. You don't need to be a scientist to see the difference, right? The livers from the fasting group are just visibly smaller.
And yep, the data backs up what our eyes are telling us. There was a significant drop in liver weight for the fasting mice.
But what's really cool is that the changes weren't just about size. They went much, much deeper.
The changes were chemical. Check this out. The data shows that blood glucose levels absolutely plummeted in the fasting group. And that makes perfect sense, right? This is the evidence right here. It's proof of that metabolic switch we were just talking about. Their bodies had stopped running on sugar.
Now this is where it gets really interesting. This colorful heat map basically gives us a snapshot of the why. Each color represents a different metabolic chemical, and you can see this massive shift in the liver's whole metabolic signature between the two groups. So what this is telling us is that fasting didn't just make the liver smaller, it fundamentally rewired its entire operating system.
Okay, section 4, fueling the brain. We've seen the effect on the body's engine room, the liver. Now let's head up to the command center. Because it turns out that backup fuel we've been talking about, ketones, is something the brain gets really excited about.
So, your brain is an incredibly energy-hungry organ. It's a real gas guzzler. But here's the thing, it can't just run on fat directly. It needs either glucose or, you guessed it, ketones. So when glucose isn't around during a fast, the brain is more than happy to switch over to using ketones. And a lot of research suggests it isn't just a decent substitute. It might actually be a cleaner, more efficient fuel source for our neurons.
And this switch to ketone power has been linked, at least in animal models, to a whole bunch of potential brain benefits. One of the biggest ones is a boost in something called BDNF. Think of BDNF as Miracle-Gro for your brain. It's like a fertilizer for your neurons. It helps existing brain cells survive, and it actually encourages the growth of brand new ones and new connections between them. This whole process helps make the brain tougher, more resilient to stress, and it might even offer some protection as we get older.
Okay, section 5, the big picture. So we've covered a lot of ground, right? We've talked about the fuel switch, that cellular cleanup crew, and what happens in the liver and the brain. Let's take a quick step back now and pull it all together.
So here's the story, from start to finish. It all begins with simply not eating for a period of time. That triggers the big metabolic switch. We go from burning sugar to burning fat and making ketones. This new state of affairs gives the green light for that deep cleaning process, autophagy, to really ramp up. And when you combine these two things, the new fuel source and the cellular cleanup, you start to see these real measurable changes in major organs, like the liver and the brain. It's this incredible chain reaction, a beautiful biological cascade.
And all of this leaves us with one last big picture question to think about. For almost all of human history, food wasn't available 24/7 at the corner store. These mechanisms we've been talking about, they aren't some new trend. They're part of an ancient survival toolkit that's built into our DNA. So the question is, in our modern world where food is everywhere all the time, how might understanding this ancient toolkit change our relationship with eating and our own health?
And there you have it, a peek into the incredible science of what happens when you fast. Thank you so much for coming along for this deep dive with us.
Hopefully that gave you some food for thought. Hey, if you're curious and you love these quick, clear explanations, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button, and maybe share this with a friend who'd find it interesting too. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching Bright Bites.